In Charleston, South Carolina today, a jury is deliberating the case of police officer Michael Slager. He is the officer who shot to death 50-year-old Walter Scott after a traffic stop in 2015. A witness recorded the shooting with a cell phone camera that you can see here. Incredibly graphic video, but also very important to understanding what happened that day. And Slager is now charged with Scott's murder. His defense? That Walter Scott took his taser and he felt he was in danger. Prosecutors say Slager simply shot an unarmed man in the back as he ran away. CNN's Boris Sanchez live for us in Charleston, and we have our legal analyst Laura Coates here with me in studio. Boris, any word on if the jury is going to get back with a verdict today?
Yeah, Brianna, no indication yet as to an immediate decision by the jury. They've been deliberating today for roughly 2 hours. They deliberated for about an hour last night, and they're considering different charges against Michael Slager. One of them murder, which carries up to life in prison. The other voluntary manslaughter, which is anywhere a sentence could be between 2 and 30 years. And of course, the potential for him to be not guilty, Brianna.
The jury actually went to the scene. Tell us about that, Boris. And I wonder what the prevailing thought is on the impact that may have on jurors. I happen to be at a campaign event in the area not far from there. So this was maybe a year or so ago. And I actually went to the site just to watch the video, to see it in person. And what sort of struck me was that you got a sense of how far away Walter Scott was. And in person, it seems a lot farther away than it does in the video. What's the thought on how being there in person might affect the jurors?
Certainly, Brianna, the video has played such a central role in the case that both the defense and the prosecution have tried illustrating that distance that you're talking about in several ways. At one point, the prosecution actually using a tape measure in the courtroom to show those 18 feet. Yesterday morning, the judge decided that he would allow the jury to actually visit the scene for themselves. This is after seeing that video several times and even after having a 3D model of the scene shown to the jurors. But they got a chance to go out there yesterday. The defense was making the case that the jury in their decision should not consider what was in that video, saying that what happened beforehand was really more important to the case, in the sense that there was that scuffle that you mentioned between Walter Scott and Michael Slager. The prosecution telling them that everything they needed to know was in that video. It'll be interesting to see how their actual visit to the scene plays out, but I can tell you it can't be understated how important that video of the confrontation between the two men, the closing moments of that confrontation, was to this case, Brianna.
Laura, I want to play for you a moment from the murder trial. He took the stand, which we do not always see, and he was asked about how threatened he felt by Walter Scott with a taser from the distance that he was at. Here's what he said.
You've seen the video.
I have.
And you've heard that he was 18 feet away. Would you agree that he was not a threat to you with that taser, without a cartridge, from that distance?
No.
Okay. So you're going to stick to that?
Yes, and the reason is, from 18 feet, he could have turned around and attacked me again.
What is your thought when you hear that testimony and on whether it's convincing to jurors?
Well, the immediate reaction I have is baloney, because he's 18 feet away and we don't even have evidence of being an initial attack against Officer Slager. What you have here...
But let's say there was. Even if there was a tussle, but then Walter Scott is running away fast.
Yes.
These are big steps. He's moving quickly away.
The most relevant part of this is you see the video footage of a man who's running away. And after he's running away and a good 17, 18 feet away, that's when he is shot. Not close to the officer's body, not in close proximity, but as he is running away. You don't have evidence of a taser being on his possession at that point, an armed man of any kind. That is the relevant part. And although it's odd sometimes to see a defendant take the stand in his own defense, here, he had no other choice, because the video, the proof is in the pudding.
For him. So he also testified that, and this is something the video shows that is especially damning, and that is Officer Slager, after Walter Scott is down, going to the taser, picking it up, moving it significantly closer to Walter Scott's video. Now, he says he doesn't remember doing that. And yet, to many people who looked at this, they felt like it was him planting evidence, already sort of wheels turning to make his case. And the other striking thing about the video that I think may affect the jurors, and you tell me, is that no one really helped Walter Scott for a very long time. He's clearly out of commission. He will later die, and no one is really there for minutes to help him.
Well, that's absolutely true. And in terms of planting evidence, that's exactly what it looked like. And remember, the prosecution in this case harped on the fact that Officer Slager had selective recall of the events. The officer kept saying, I don't remember everything. My mind was kind of spaghetti at this point. But he remembers that maybe he went on autopilot because he's nervous about any loose weapons being in the area. Now, that's not a convincing argument when you have the fact that this officer told his colleagues up until the point that the video surfaced that he was in a confrontation, close proximity, and was acting in complete self-defense. And only after that video surfaced did we actually see the other side, and I believe the truth in this scenario. So the fact that he moved this weapon, I don't think it was an autopilot. What the jurors are now deliberating, Grant, is really one thing. They have the gift of not only a murder charge consideration, but voluntary manslaughter.
That's right.
2 widely different sentences. One could carry life, one is 2 to 30 years. That was a gift to figure out, what are we doing? Is this officer, should that person have a murder charge or manslaughter?
There's a lot of discretion, and
Yeah.
so we will see what they decide. All right, Laura Coates, Boris Sanchez, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.